Alright, continuing on, this is the second video of where we are putting an adaptive switch control for a special needs child into this voice box of Miss Peppa Pig. So we took it, we've removed it from inside here and snipped it free, and now then we're going to actually put the switch interface in that will connect it to the switch itself. I've collected up a few things. I got a zip tie. I did actually put the batteries back in it so that I could test it, and we'll do some preliminary testing here in just a few minutes, and I'll give you a better idea of what this little pattern does right here. That's the contact pattern for the switch, and then we'll get this thing installed. It's almost like the manufacturer had intended for this thing to have a switch in it, because they actually left us a port in the top to allow for the interface cable to go in. So that was nice of them. We didn't have to get our drill out to make the hole, which is always, you know, that's a bigger risk when you start drilling into things. You got to know exactly where everything's at. I started out. I actually buy, since I'm doing a short little run of these, I'm going to do. I bought 10 of these Peppa Pigs for myself to sell on eBay. I bought these cables. They're male-female cables. Now this one's actually a stereo cable. So the cable for the switch controller generally comes in as a mono. You'll see right here that it only has 2 sections on the 3.5 jack, whereas the stereo has an extra one. But the important part is that the contact here and here is the same. So you just have the top and the bottom, and the top and the bottom, there's just an extra one in here. I like working with these better when it comes time to solder. They're just a little easier to solder. I bought the male-female end for one particular reason, and that is because the Peppa Pig needs the female receptor, since the switches have the male side. And so whenever I bought this off the shelf from actually Show Me Cables in Missouri, so they had these available. It's 6 feet long, and so I'm going to need approximately 10 or 11 inches of this for Peppa Pig. So now I can take this, and ironically I have my pigtail for the voice box of Peppa Pig, but also I now have a 4.5 foot, 4+ foot cable for my my switch project that I'm going to be working on also. So you get for every female jack that you get to go into a toy, you get an accompanying male jack to go into some sort of switch. Which as a parent, another thing that I really don't enjoy is changing toys on switches. I think I wish I could get a switch for every toy, because I realize that some kids need a very special switch, or a very special switch, either a cheek mount or an eye blink or something like that, and that's understandable. But when we're just dealing with these simple switches like this right here, I always feel like there should be there should be one switch for every toy. But not everyone likes things the same way I do. So let's go ahead and get this this cable ready to go in. We're going to strip back the casing on it here a little bit so we can work with it. I'm going to strip back about this much, And what I like to do is I like to cut it with the correct size for cutting it, and then move it up one size to strip it back, just so that I don't wind up cutting off anything I don't want to. Now, this being a stereo jack, you have, as we were pointing out, the 3 fields, or the 3 contacts on the jack end. You have the red wire going to either the tip or the middle, and then the red wire and the accompanying shielding ground wire. We're not going to be using this ground wire because these are mono applications, so I'm just going to twist that up right there and snip it off, because we're just going to be using the red and the white wires. I just tested this a few moments ago just to make sure, because you never can tell when something's going to be just different just because, and did confirm that the red and the white wire are equivalent to the mono jack. So let's see, let's continue stripping the ends off here, and we'll get these ready to get a little tinning done on the contacts for the wires. So what we're going to do is, we get these stripped off, we're going to actually put just a little bit of solder in the wires themselves to tin them and get them ready to be contacted, ready to be soldered to the contacts on the board. And to do that, I'm going to bring out my soldering vise, which, if you have a chance to get one, I highly recommend it. Got this one at Harbor Freight for something close to $10, and it was worth every bit of it. I myself, I am an extra flux man. I like to put extra flux on just to keep things flowing. No pun intended. It just makes things a whole lot easier. And whenever you go to melt the solder, I realize I am using flux core solder, but that little bit extra just makes it go that much better. I'd also use a gas-powered soldering iron. I like it better because it's just, I don't like having the cord myself. Some folks think it's a little hot. If you're working in tight areas, you do have to watch where your flame comes out, because you can inadvertently roll it and melt something you're not intending to. But in this particular situation, it works fairly well. So we'll give this just a second to warm up, and then as soon as that gets warm, right now, we're going to start applying just a little bit of tin. I'm going to melt just a little bit on the end here, and then get a little flux flowing, and you're going to see just a little bit run down into the wires. There we go. Now I got it flowing. Alright, and there's that. And there's that. Okay. That's good. Now then, we've got our ends tinned here, and we're going to get ready to attach them to our board. Now, one thing I like to do right here, because I always forget, and it is supremely frustrating, is I'm going to go ahead and put, nope, since I'm smart and I'm using a pigtail and I don't need any heat shrink on it, I don't have to worry about the heat shrink today. But what I am going to put on is our zip tie right here, because the hole that we're going to run the wire out is a little bit larger than the wire, so that would allow for the, let's get the vise out of the way here, that would allow for the any force that was pulling on this to actually be pulling on the solder joints, and that's less than ideal. You don't want to be pulling directly on solder joints, because they'll break free. So we're going to put a stop on here, about yay, right there. Take this zip tie, and cinch it down about right there. Get it nice and tight, and then snip it off. And now we have the equivalent of a ferrule to keep this from pulling back through. And so we'll get this. There's a very convenient way we can lay this wire right here in this hole that the manufacturer left for us, and then we'll put that back down right there, and we can bend our wires for the contact up and over just like so. Alright, sorry that I I wasn't happy with the glare I was getting off of the board trying to show you where to solder, and actually, you know, it's kind of small, so I took a moment to get a picture and blow it up so you can see actually exactly where you're going to be soldering the leads onto the board here. Now that we have the routing and everything laid out for our pigtail where it's going to be going, so we'll bring this in right here. This is a picture of the board, and it would be oriented like such right here. So this is where we see the board right here, and here you can see this round pattern is this round pattern right here. And so we are going to solder we're going to solder it to this dot right here and to the back side of this switch pattern right here, and those will be our contacts. And when we jump those 2 points, that's what makes the voice box initiate. So you can test that. We've got a jumper. Alright, we've got a jump wire right here. This is just a little short piece of wire right here we're going to use to test that these are the regions that we're actually aiming for. So we're going to take this right here and say we're going to solder one wire right there and one wire right there, and no, apparently that's the right spot. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is pick those spots. I'm going to butter up a little bit of flux just right there where I want that wire to be at, and then a little bit more right here, just in this spot right there where I want to solder that wire onto. Okay, and then I am going to fire up my soldering iron. And while it's warming up, I'm going to go ahead and bend my wires and figure out exactly the orientation I want for them. So I've snipped off a little bit of it. It's a little bit shorter than it was before. So you can see right here that I've got just enough so that it doesn't drag over and contact over onto the other side. So we're going to turn this in the correct direction right here and preload just a little bit of solder onto the tip. Just go ahead and melt just a little bit of solder right there. And then I'll hold it right here. And since the switch is on and we do have batteries in it, we will know if we accidentally solder over it and short it out, because Peppa will tell us that we did. So I'm going to get just a little bit of solder right there. Get it to go down. Actually, I'll put a little bit of solder in place first. All right. It didn't take on the first one. Okay. Now then we'll put just a little bit of solder right here. Just a little dollop. Alright. Now then, that makes that work. Now then, we have our switch here, which is our test switch that we put together on the first video. And so we've got this right here. It just plugs up. And then, yep, so apparently it worked and we didn't kill it. So we're doing pretty good. Now then, all we're going to do is take this, kind of wrap it around the board here. Give ourselves a little bit of room. Alright, get that in the right spot. Now we've got enough play there. Okay. Now our ferrule here will keep any wire from pulling through. These wires are looped around. They're not going to be contacting anything that we don't want them to. Still works. Good job. Alright. So now then, the real winner here is when we take the original switch, the original button, and there's just a little bit of a notch in it right there, and we're going to put it right here so that the original switch still works. Now then, very carefully flip everything back over, and
that was the best hug ever!
Switch that over.
A hug will be lovely!
Alright. So now then, all we have to do is put it back together. It's always good to know that's how it's going to work out. Alright. You don't have to be gorilla tight. One last function check.
Everybody loves hugs! Oh, lovely hugs! Yippee! I love hugs from you!
Alright. Now then, we'll put the batteries back in it and put the battery cover back on it. So now we've got everything put back together. So all we have to do, and I myself, let's go ahead and take care of this right quick. These are always in the need of, if you don't melt the ends of those, they will unravel on you. So we'll just melt those back together just to make sure that they don't unravel. Okay, and then push that through to there, and then just, if you can't tie a knot, tie a lot. Go through once, and then go through again, as Peppa puts it, with a proper knot. And everything's back in order, ready to go back inside. Alright, so you feed this back in here, just like you were changing the batteries on anything else whenever your kids' batteries die in their favorite toy. That's what parents do. Feed her back in there. Get the hug switch right there. You're going to want to make sure, first I want to make sure I turned her back on. And I didn't. So now we're back on. Okay. So now we're going to turn this in here. Yep.
Hug me, please.
Still works. Alrighty. I believe I have it upside down, because we want the hug action in the front. And the pigtail coming out the bottom. There we go. Now we're in business. Now we have the button to the front, the pigtail to the back, and Velcro it back up. Okay. Now if you have children that, you know, if you're not using it with a switch, all you have to do is open up the back here, and you can tuck that pigtail, no pun intended, right up in the inside there. But since this is what we're doing, we need that out. We're gonna leave it out. Velcro the back up, and voila, Peppa Pig now has a pigtail. They can go with an adaptive switch. One last function check. Initial function. Still works.
Now that's a proper hug.
Alright, so now we have Peppa Pig here is adapted for a switch, and we'll be sending this one out on the way to, this one will be one of the ones I put on eBay. So I appreciate y'all following along. That was long and drawn out if you were just looking for the points to solder it onto, because you already knew all the other stuff. I appreciate you following along anyway. This is William's dad. Thank you, and we'll see you the next time we want to adapt a toy for a little boy and girl.